Hello, Stephen, and welcome to the Martin Talk Show.
Hello, Martin. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for joining me. I'm excited to hear all about your show moving on really, really slowly.
Oh, you said it right as well.
Did I? Did I?
Yeah, no, so many people. It's unfortunate name that sometimes people will say very, very slowly. I'm like, no, it's really.
Yeah, really slowly.
Yeah.
So let's get into it then. So tell me about this. Let's talk about the title of the show. What's it about?
So the show is kind of two things. I mean, it's sort of essentially it's me as an autistic man and absurdist surrealist comedian um, looking through the lens of both of those things about a two past relationships. One which was very healthy and more recent, uh, um, and the other one which was quite toxic and still carry a lot of wounds still from that past relationship. Um, I'm just trying to limit what I say too much just because spoilers.
Hmm.
But yeah, one was like, but it's yeah, basically the sort of me going much like a slug, trying to move very slowly on from these past events and reconcile with the present and just keep moving on through the means, often through doing wacky surrealist comedy.
So this is your story, Stephen. This is a true life
Um,
experience.
I mean, um, the parts that are real, um, like the fact, such as the partners and the autism in the show is real. Um, the fact that I come on, I entered this show as a slug, is not real.
It's not quite right.
I'm not actually a 5 foot 6 inch slug man. Nor was my father attacked and beaten up by swans. So maybe takes some element. I mean, it'll be quite. It's not. It'll be very. What's the word? When you make it very clear what you're about. Not choreographed. Basically, it'll be very obvious what is going to be what is based on reality and what isn't based on reality, but it is essentially using fantasy to both try and escape from the past,
Mhm.
but also at the same time confront the past.
So you've taken what you know, and
Yeah.
which is often the advice writers get, isn't it? Take what you
Mm.
know
Mm.
and run with it and turn it into something new. And
Yeah.
it sounds like you've taken from your own personal experiences
Mm.
and then taken it into a surreal fantasy world.
I mean, to be honest, many people would say what I know best is the fantasy world.
Okay, okay.
Um, but that's because there was once a time I was making a joke on stage, um, which involved me pretending to be a sort of crab. So I could do a knock knock joke in crab because crabs, like a lot of invertebrates, speak what's known as stridulation, um, which is basically they rub their legs up and down, causing vibrations. So, when crickets, for example, go, that's
Yeah, yeah.
their legs moving. Crabs do the same. Uh, and essentially, I was doing a joke based on that. And I made a joke like people keep asking me, "Hey, Stephen, why don't you, talk about what it's like being a black man in the UK?" I'm like, because I talk about what I know. I know how to be a crab. um, so yeah, it's me working with what I'm good at and known for, which is highly alternative surrealist comedy, but also using that to actually reflect on some variety of different real-based events or ideas.
That's really interesting because I wouldn't have necessarily like put the two together, real life events and the fantasy and the surrealist comedy that it sounds like you're doing. What kind of influences do you have with surrealist comedy?
I mean, primarily, so I actually have quite a diverse range of influences, but when it comes to alternative comedy, I think it's Monty Python that put me in trouble there. Uh, but equally, I consumed a lot of different sketch shows. Like when I was in my high school years, there was like the Armstrong and Miller show and Harry and Paul, which some based on, as well as the Mitchell and Webb look. Like there is clearly some sketches in there that were based more on actual, real, potential things. But then you also got them doing post-apocalypse number wang. Uh,
Yes, yes.
um, so
I think that was one of the best sketches that they did, wasn't it? That was
no, the
definitely
best.
for
I think
sure
the
one of my
best
favorites.
one, and is really relevant, is David Mitchell dressed as a Nazi going, "Are we the baddies?" Because all the others, the enemy, they have symbols like eagles and lions, but we have like skulls.
Yeah,
Um,
they did that so well, didn't they? Pointing out the obvious.
yeah, no. I mean, you think it's obvious, but clearly,
Clearly,
if
it's
you're
not
on
though.
social, if social media is telling me anything, there's a lot of people who are not seeing the
Mhm.
obvious, which
Yes.
is actually a funny. I can't remember the name of this. He's a New York-based. I'm not going to say comedian because I'm not sure if that's what he would describe himself as. But he was doing he does things like goes to an abortion rally, anti-abortion rally. So these
Mhm.
pro-lifers trying to blockade these clinics, and he's like, "We hate women," and they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm saying what you guys are thinking." Or he's like, "Does anybody want a cake?" And he's getting cake mix out and pouring it, and then raw eggs and smashing them on his face. Or he was interviewing a lot of MAGA Trump supporters, and
Mhm.
saying like, "What do you think of the LGBT?" And they're like, "Oh, I," and they bear in mind they've got like their, I guess, 11-year old daughter, and saying like, "I would never, these LGBT people, supporters, they make it their child's identity and um, wear it on wear it on their sleeves, sort of thing, while they're
Yeah.
wearing these big red
So
hats."
this does that influence what you're doing at all? This kind of real world comedy where yeah, like they said, pointing out the obvious, but making a joke for it, making it humorous.
Um, I think so. I think a point that people might not realize is that, or need to consider, is that all surrealists are just observationalists, in but applying it into the world of fantasy, and all observationalists are just applying the surreal to the everyday. It's just two sides of the same coin. It's just
Hmm.
how weird you get with it.
And so, how weird do you get?
um, let me. So in the last Edinburgh show I did, that concluded with me getting waterboarded with honey while dressed in a female uh, bee Halloween costume, as in a Halloween costume, bee Halloween costume meant for women.
Hmm.
So a smexy
Okay.
Halloween costume. While I was getting, I'm not sure if the punchline's YouTube friendly, so I'll just say golden showered
Ah, okay.
with honey. Uh, so that's sort of the level of weird people have come to expect from me. But then I've done, it's not like that's, it's sort of almost expected for me to sort of get that kind of weird. So in the
The
same
the
room.
expectation thing is quite interesting
Mm,
for a comedian of how do you deal with that then if you've been to the Edinburgh Fringe before. I've seen
mm,
some of the good reviews that you've had on previous years, and
mm,
you're coming back this time, and yeah, like you say, you feel like there's an expectation for how far you're going to push the boundaries of your comedy. How
mm.
does that feel for you?
I mean, that's a heavy. So, in my first year of doing a solo run,
Hmm.
I hit a lot of the targets and then some extra that I wasn't expecting.
Hmm.
Like I got the like I wasn't expecting a British comedy guide recommendation. Like that one caught me off guard. Like it came towards the end. It's like I can't put that on the poster this year.
Yeah.
Too late. But thank you. But then I wasn't expecting like to get into the Telegraph for jokes either, or um, I had hopes, though it was never clear how or if it was possible to get the Malcolm Hardy nominate a Malcolm Hardy nomination for comic originality. Now I
Hmm.
didn't win it because I went to Phil Ellis, and to be fair on Phil Ellis, that man has been doing Edinburgh since when I did started my first degree.
Yeah, right.
So he's been doing it for quite. I can't. I don't want to guess how long because I feel like that would be rude, and I like Phil, and I don't want to say. But Phil Ellis. Wonderful show I saw when he did in 23. It really was a really good one, um, and because I went to watch it at Soho Theatre, but like the man got his Sky Arts Edinburgh nomination as well. So to have lost to him was like,
It still felt good. The nomination felt good. It didn't feel there was no
well,
envy in someone
no,
like that
I
beating you to it.
mean, there's a sort of annoyance like you've already won it before, and you got the really big award nomination,
Yes.
but so
Mhm.
can't I the little guy have it? But then by that logic, I should also have been annoyed at Dom Biswas for winning the actually Autistic Excellence Award when he's been
Right.
going for twice my time in comedy. So those guys, they've done that. They've done more than their fair share of miles.
Hmm.
And experience. So to even be considered alongside them was quite a honour.
It does sound like an honor. It's an achievement in
Mm.
itself.
Mm. Oh yeah, especially because both both respective guys and a lot of people they have like massive PR supporting them and
Hmm.
um, eight agents in both their respective accounts. While it's me, I'm just a man with dreams and um, ambition. Possibly also quite a bit of luck as well to even have got so far with some of those, many of those.
Well,
Like,
that's a key ingredient to that ambition and that drive and that want is yeah, and even to the talent. You can have all them things, but
mm,
the luck is
mm,
needed as well in this.
yeah.
So coming to back to the Edinburgh Fringe, what is your ambition for this year? What is it you're looking forward to?
Um, what I'm after
Hmm.
is get more 5 stars, get more 4 stars. Uh, so 23, I got all round. I got pretty decent reviews, um, with the exception of one which I won't talk about. Um, um, but you can't please everyone. Um, uh, but I got a good 5. I got two good two good 4s.
Hmm.
Some other ones that didn't give ratings for whatever, just because they weren't ones that were going to give ratings,
Hmm.
but did write good positive things. And then a 3, which was read like a 4 and could have easily been a 4, but the guy just like for his fact like if you look at his scoring, it was technically a 3.5, but
Hmm.
he had to either round up or down. He chose down, but uh, uh, so this year it's aimed to try and get more of those fives and fours. Just to be clear, not more threes. Um,
We would like the fours and the fives, please.
we can
So,
well, because we can put them on the posters. You can't really put a three on a poster unless the only way I can put any three in a poster is if I start getting a one, so I can complete the pyramid. Um, and at the moment, no one's because that's the only reason why I'm considering that a one in some cases will be better than a two.
it's just say
It's,
you've got that pyramid.
well,
Is
it's
that a
just
thing, or is that
that is a
something that
that
you?
is a genuine thing.
Right.
I can't remember. I was talking with my friend Coben Mileage, who's I knew when I was doing my masters in Scotland.
Hmm.
But he's a lovely bloke, and I highly recommend him as well. But he was talking about I'm not sure if it's Stuart McPherson or who it was, but and I can't remember if it was like the skinny or 3 weeks, but he literally said like, I know you like the show, but please give me a one. And they literally had to put like, we would have given it like this, but for some strange reason, this comic was asking, um,
Demanding a one for his
demanding a one.
pyramid.
So yeah, 1 star, guys. Because a one can get publicity as well as much as a five.
Mm.
Um,
Yes, now one of the things I noticed from my first year last year at the Edinburgh Fringe was I went towards the end last year, and this year I'm there at the beginning.
yeah.
And when I was there, I noticed an overwhelming amount of 5 stars on posters,
Hmm.
to the point that I was thinking, is there actually any value to the stars? As someone looking for shows to go and see, it was almost yeah, it was just stars everywhere you looked, and it kind of I was thinking, is the value is the value real?
Well, I would point that's partly the pyramid point of that.
Hmm.
It's all just people's opinions.
Yes.
Um, um, but I would say, for example, when you're looking at those stars, where are those stars coming from? For example, like um, equally, it's the same thing with like awards and
So if you get her a
finals.
5 star from What's on Stage or from the Times or the Guardian, then those really do hold some value.
I
Whereas if you get
mean,
it,
they all hold value,
hmm,
um, and that's not me doing a well, everyone's precious kind of thing.
yes,
Um, this is something like mentors I've had when I've done like Elf Lion says like you appreciate the good reviews regardless of
hmm,
who they come from.
hmm,
Um, you appreciate the audience that come regardless of like the size or um, even to the extent of how they might you might perceive that they might not all be enjoying it because to you it may be that you're perceiving them that they're hating it, but they might
hmm,
just not be a vocal crowd, and they're actually very much internal laughers, which as comedians we hate, but
of course.
because we're like, no, we need the external validation, please, loudly, so I otherwise it,
It's the energy. It's real. It's
yeah,
when the room is
alive,
laughing and clapping and alive. You can feed off that.
yeah.
But when there's nothing, the quiet audience may be appreciating your work, but it must be. I can't even begin to imagine as a comedian what that feels like in that moment.
I mean, it's we're conditioned to want applause and laughter, but
Hmm.
a great comedian will do it regardless of it. Like good comedians know how to die on stage, uh, well, because there's not that I'm encouraging it. Like there's a difference between someone who's giving it all and it's not working and just they're giving it all and there is no skill or ability like that. There's a entirely different thing. Like um, Also for me, it's sort of like quiet audiences. It just means I have to get them to submit something that I've always won compliments I've done, and even like I've done gigs in the northeast, for example, where it felt like, and which the MC and the promoter that booked me warned me like these are going to seem like tough crowd people, but they do love comedy,
Hmm.
and our openers always struggle, so don't worry about it. But it was like for the first 10 minutes of what I was doing, I'm like, is it? Is this for you? Am I? And then it's just like the final 5 minutes. They're like it. There's just something in them that they just broke, and it's
They,
like
th
right.
Does
Am
the
I?
audience need a little while to settle to get in the zone to soak up the atmosphere? Is that what it is?
Depends on the audience. I've had tiny rooms of maybe 10, 8 people who've been absolutely lapping it up. I've had rooms, much larger rooms, where they're like looking at, giving me the look, which my friend Johnny Brook would describe, but I will say it in more YouTube friendly terms, like who the hell thought to say that you were funny and why are you on this stage? So I think like there are people that will do that, like you'll deliver and you just sometimes you fail to connect with the crowd, but uh, that's not always your fault. Sometimes you're just not the right comic for the job.
Hmm.
Um, but
So
then
you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation about being neurodivergent.
mm,
Um, How does that how does that feel for you? What does that look like when the audience aren't connecting or the audience are sometimes I've seen stand-up comedians, the audience are very unfair towards them and heckling. How does that work for you and the way that you work?
again, that's kind of room dependent.
Hmm.
Sometimes they've been less than pleasant. Like um, there was one time I was doing one of my friends, Tom Short's shows. Another good comic based in Manchester. He does I think I know he's doing a different show this year. But if you look up his old show, he's doing like he did a horror comedy show.
Hmm.
But I did my first encounter with him was doing a compilation show that he was running at Edinburgh, and he booked me. He enjoyed it so much. Him and his audience enjoyed it so much. He's like, "I'm going to have you for another."
Hmm.
And this was one where um, there was this Scottish oil rigger uh, who clearly didn't like surrealism
Hmm.
and the sort of clowning I was doing, and basically he's screaming and yelling. He's like, "This, I'm managing my language here. Like this sucks. Like, what is this? This isn't even comedy." And I get on, try and do it. Obviously, it kind of ruined it for the rest of the audience. Tom goes on. He's like trying to address like some people are like Michael McIntyre, some people like Eddie Izzard, and that's okay. We're just different, but it's just important to be respectful. Like even if you don't like it, it's just 7 minutes on the act on compilation. There's going to be another act soon anyway.
Hmm.
It might be ruining it. And then this guy just kept going on and on and on and on. With Tom, and Tom's like, it's an hour compilation show. I need to. Mm-mm-mm. And this other punter, so sick of this guy, just trying to derail the show, just went, "Shut up!" And then the oil rigger's like, "I'm gonna knock you out." So I nearly caused a bar fight. Uh, is because I
That
made a
that sounds
box.
like a badge of honor for a comedian, is it not?
I mean, I mean, to be honest, it's sort of, yeah, like if you can cause, nearly cause a fight because you've made two boxes of sweeties make love to each other after fighting. I mean, why that set him off? But then, even in one of these, the ones in the show this year, there was a bit that And to be clear in the story, he is now mentioned in the show as a forewarning for this bit. And
Hmm.
I'm not going to go into detail what the bit was because spoilers. Um, but I checked with him. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to maintain eye contact with you while doing this to check if you're okay. And he was like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." And he was a good sport for most of it. And bear in mind, this is like 45 minutes into the show,
Hmm.
40, 45, and then within the like seconds of me start doing it, he just gets up and like, you know what, mate? No, this isn't okay. And I'm admittedly, and to my note, and this has never happened in another preview. This has almost never, rarely has happened in most gigs I've done,
Hmm.
where they're actually stood up and been all confrontational. And to be honest, if you read the books and review, the reviewer he mentions it as well that there was an audience member who got so uncomfortable he just had to leave. And then I talked to him after. He said, "Yeah, no, this was clearly the audience member." So, but he got up and he said what I considered one of the most weirdest things that he said, which was, "I'm not going to let you do that in front of me when my sister is sitting next to me." And it's like this implies that if his sister wasn't there, that it would
Then.
be all right. I'm like, that's a very weird point to make before you go. But
See now,
yeah,
without the spoilers, you're selling the show to me. I've got to see. I've got to know what this is. I've got to know what some people can't handle, what some people can't take within this world of comedy and theatre.
well, to be honest, if of all the bits, I'm surprised that's, especially if what I've put in that show, I'm surprised that's one of them. To be fair, the show, so like, if we're going to add controversy, uh,
Hmm.
that's not really controversy. So I tried Watford Fringe this year as well, and one of the venues I picked uh, was a chapel uh, that has been used for theatre spaces. Now, basically, applied, spoke with the guy. I explained exactly what's happening in the show and things. I do not, when I apply for things, I do not. I am very clear of what kind of comic I am, what I do,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to festivals. For me doing solo shows. So he's like, "Yeah, fine, good. Love to have you on board." And then a few weeks later, I get a call from the Watford Fringe saying, "Hey, we just had a call from." Well, actually, let me go back. So after I've submitted everything and it's all done, about maybe a week after, I get a message from him saying, "Hey, the deacons just checked in. Is there anything that's going to be offensive to Christianity?" Um, and then I'm like, so it's like, there's meant to be an exorcism in the show for one thing, uh, but and that's not even arguably the most offensive thing. And I don't.
Hmm.
Oh, just to be clear, I don't consider myself an offensive comic. I don't even consider myself.
Hmm.
I hate when people go like, "I'm a dark comedian," because it means that you're gonna you're gonna just sorry.
It doesn't sound like to me that with your craft that you're setting. It doesn't sound like to me that you're setting out to offend.
No, I never try to set out a friend. It's just a gift, as Omar Gilly would say. Um, um, uh, But even then, like, no, I very consciously don't try and offend. I'm very aware that I can toe the line,
Hmm.
but it's never, that was never the end, that's never the end goal. And I don't like
See,
comics that go out their way to be like, I'm going to do, and this is usually, and to be fair, when it comes to these kind of comics, it's usually the comics on the open mic who are in their 20s and 30s and like, oh, I'm going to try and be the next Frankie Boyle or Kevin
mhm.
Bridges or Jim
See,
Jeffries.
and I also believe within comedy, within the arts, that there should be a space for offence. That we shouldn't be silencing
I
the
mean,
comedic or the artist's voice completely.
so I don't necessarily disagree.
Hmm.
What I will make the point is essentially, I kind of agree with Bo Burnham on this sort of thing. It's like, one, that's up to the comedian, but also what they choose to do. I also believe that, yes, I do believe in freedom of speech. I believe that comics can and should be able to say whatever they want. But I also don't believe in freedom of consequences. If
Hmm.
I go on stage and do, hypothetically, just to be clear, racist material, the
Yes, yes.
audience.
Ah, see that yeah, that's going into a different area, racism
Mm,
and
okay, I
hate.
just want to be
Hate.
clear. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and this is a very fine line, isn't it?
Mm.
Moving
I
from
mean,
offence
racism
into
isn't really a fine line, but I know
no,
what you're trying
no,
to get at.
but
No,
moving from being offensive
yeah.
to outright wrong and
Well,
derogatory and
well,
attacking.
that's the thing. There's a whole thing on punching down in
Hmm.
comedy and what you're saying, and I've definitely, in my time, seen young comics um, do that. I mean, I've seen also older comics who are more established do that, and some do it in a way where it's like they do it well and they're very good at it, and others is like you can do that, and some gigs are going to book you because they're going to be fine with what you're doing, and then others it's absolutely not going to be okay. But that is, the promoters are promoting to the audiences what those audiences will like, or like,
Hmm.
as an alternative comic, I can't get I can't get pissy if some mainstream nights don't want me to do what I would do. Um,
Hmm.
Likewise, comics who are going to do, say, darker stuff, uh, and possibly even very offensive stuff, and admittedly, that is a very broad church of what that could mean.
Hmm.
Though some less broad than others, but um, some people are going to be like, no, this is not what and that's every right of an audience, and like comedians should be accountable for what they say and do. Like there is an element of, yes, it's all in good jest sometimes, but then some it's mean spirit. Like it's not a simple issue.
No.
But sorry, getting back to the story. Uh, so he checks: is there anything that you're doing that's going to be offensive to Christianity or sort of, yeah, this community? I'm like, hmm. I mean, I already said I was going to do this, and heard nothing, and then I get a call from the Watford Fringe saying like, hey, so you spoke with da 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 and you got your spot. He's really embarrassed, and to be honest, I don't. He, yeah, he really should have just checked with the deacon long before we did the
Hmm.
registrations, because it's meant that I didn't get in the brochure, so I was still listed in my old venue in there, but
Hmm.
and also lost some audience because they had bought ticket from when they were free, not but couldn't be free for the other day. So the other day I was going to do at the other venue, that
Hmm.
basically Watford. So yeah, so controversial. The church does not approve. Uh, I've hit that Life of Brian
Well,
statement.
that's exactly what I was going to go to. That
Mm.
Life of Brian was not approved of when it first appeared,
True,
but
but
there's a famous interview, isn't there, where they're sitting down, and it turns out that everyone against the Life of Brian in this interview,
never even saw it.
they hadn't seen the film.
No.
They just knew the premise of what it was about, and that was enough for them to be anti-message,
Mm. Mm.
anti what the Pythons were trying to do.
Which, to be honest, if you actually watch the film, they're not
Hmm.
anti-Christianity. They're not even
Hmm.
anti. Well, they're not anti-Jesus. They actually have Jesus at pretty much very early in the film. Well, they have him clearly they have the wise men actually going to his birth after they
Hmm.
realise that Brian is not the Messiah. But then they also, at the start of the film, after the title sequence, it is Jesus doing the Sermon on the Mount, and it's not
Hmm.
done in a way to laugh at Jesus. It's laughing at the people who are at the back of the crowd who definitely can't hear what Jesus was saying, and are mishearing. So they're going like, much to my mother's sort of one of her favourite bits. She likes saying, "Blessed are the mook." uh, um, so no, if anything, they give quite a lot of dignity. Obviously, their issue and criticism is more on the sectarianism in the Middle East because of extremist religion, as well as the Romans. Sort of, you could argue they were an analogy to the US, and if we were looking at it like that, but um,
Religion is that other fine line in comedy, isn't it? That we've got to be careful
I
to
mean,
delve
one of
into.
I mean,
How careful of you are you then as you go into it?
um,
Do you feel that or not at all?
I mean, one of the bits that a lot of people know me for, if not for being dressed as a bumblebee, is being a dog priest,
Okay.
which is me doing, which is not in the show. So anyone who's
Mhm.
like expecting, I was promised waterboarding and with honey, and uh, a man doing a parody of the Eucharist, but for dogs, um, which was, yeah. Um, Blasphemy is not something I'm unfamiliar with. Um, if anything, I would love if I could expand it to other faiths. Speaking as um, someone who did grow up in a Catholic household, um, um, I would love to make jokes on a lot of different religions, including my own spirituality,
Mhm.
which which would be Buddhism. And to be honest, I'm not even, while I'm not a Tibetan Buddhist, I'm not beyond taking, poking fun of, say, against the Dalai Lama for his action, one of his actions last year.
Mhm.
Um, so the
Wh-
only,
wh- Why don't you then? Why do you hold back on some?
well, I would point out the reason why I don't is similar is a similar logic to what Dara Brin said in his show This Is the Show, of which he was pointing out how people would say to him, "Oh, you make jokes about the Catholics, you make jokes about the Protestants, but you don't make jokes about the Muslims, do you? You're not that brave, are you, Dara?" And his point is the reason why I don't is, well, one thing I think point out, he didn't grow up with that sort of background anyway. But as he points out, I don't know a thing about Muslims, but also neither do you. And so, like, we live in the UK, which is a predominantly and historically been a Abrahamic Christian country,
Mhm.
while now secular and has been for a good many, well, century or so. It's more in the zeitgeist of people, so it's what's more accessible. If I start, I could write excellent material on Eastern religions, but most people are like, what?
Mm.
So to
And
do
it's
a
going
joke,
back to that the
to
best
do a,
writing is the
to do,
writing what you know,
yeah, well, it's what I know, but also
mm.
what the audience
What the
will
audience know.
understand and know. And if I was
Mhm.
to do that, I need to cover a lot of background on things, which it's not something I really want to be doing at the moment.
Mhm.
Maybe at some point in a future year, but certainly I've seen people cover things like, obviously, like more obscure things. Like, I know Eddie Hurst, for example, he's covered at least one of his shows at Buxton was on the Odyssey, which he named the show something like, "Oh Mighty King of Ithaca, pick up your bow and swim,"
All right.
which is, hats off. Eddie comes up with brilliantly long titles, like, and he is a good comic, as great comic as well. And I enjoyed reading what one of his shows entail, several of his shows entail and do. But it's how willing am I to invest in an audience in educating them on something so that they, because that's the thing, like, it's why, like, for example, political comedy often is so rapidly, things are like, um, references, because if you make references to things that people don't know, you could potentially alienate your audience, people in your
Yes.
audience. Like, it's, and it becomes more like in jokes for those that get it. Like, and don't get me wrong, I love a good reference to a film in a show, which used to be, especially in my earlier uh, stages of comedy, I did a lot of callbacks and lines from films that I love. But when I started performing comedy on the circuit proper, rather than student crowds, some audience would be like, "What?" And you'd be like,
Mm.
"I'm referencing Alien." Like, you know
How do
the
you not?
Alien franchise? You
But
know,
yeah, different
dealing with
generations won't
Predator.
necessarily get that. Mm.
Well, to be honest, like, that's a pretty big franchise. Like, it's
Yeah.
very hard to miss. But when you, like, not everyone in my audience is a cinephile or nerd. Uh,
Mm.
uh, not everyone's going like, "Oh yes, I understand.
Mhm.
I've read the Ten Rings," or, "Oh yes, I'm very familiar with June." Uh, um, Now, admittedly, you and it takes a lot of skill to be able to make comedy based on, say, things like that,
Mhm.
that are essentially references or parodies of that, but are still quite accessible to it. South Park, for example, do great examples of that, but also they
Yes.
as a sitcom that is able to appear a lot of things, and it's not relying on those references necessarily.
Hmm.
Which also, yeah, I'm not really much of an influence in my childhood, but Simpsons definitely would have been. I equally a lot of variety of different stand-up comics as well, like Omar Lilly, Billy Connolly, Eddie, Susie Izzard. Um,
And I guess these references that they're making the pop culture references that are relevant
mm,
right now, aren't
yeah.
they? And I guess that's the safe thing with the references that they're doing, and what keeps them going with those references, because it's always about what's happening in the now.
I mean, so this is partly why I veer towards surrealism and alternative comedy anyway,
Hmm.
over to doing, say, observationalism. Well, there's a couple of reasons why. So, a lot of people say everything in comedy has already been done. It's always just someone finding a new spin on something.
Hmm.
I think that's something that's very much happens in observational comedy. Um, it's not, but I do believe there's always a way to make a new and original spin. So I'm not trying to diss that genre of comedy at all. I do think, however, and admittedly, alternative comedy is no stranger to that issue as well. It's just far easier in with alternative comedy, absurdism or surrealism, to find surrealism, find new spins on things, because it's your own human imagination, and there's always something else you can imagine. Uh,
Hmm.
and equally, it's harder to predict. Well, because I've done things like I start the show in one way, I end it in another, completely different thing, and they're like, I don't know how we got from A to B to Z here, but somehow in the process of the journey, this made logical sense. Uh, um, but that's also another thing why I tend to veer to surrealism and alternative comedy. It's the I don't like being predictable. Um, like the best comedy, and this partly the theory of why humans laugh is partly that we laughed at something unpredictable that we didn't
Hmm.
expect. And it's like
The unexpected, yes.
we laughed at, oh, there was danger, but it
Hmm.
turns out everything's fine. So we laugh because it's haha, the dangers that we thought were there is. It's actually really interesting. Like some of the, I'm less of an influence on my early, more formative years, like Python and uh, So a lot of the American comic influences have happened more like in my uni years and in my
Mhm.
late teenagers and early 20s, while a lot of British still influenced in my 20s and 30s, but it happened in my teenagers. But it's interesting with, for example, Key and Peele. Um, Michael Key. Hold on.
That's okay. Are you sending it over to me?
No, I'm trying to.
No.
Jordan Peele. I was
Jordan
just
Peele.
trying to, yeah,
Yes.
trying to remember which. I had a, when you have this like brain fog, you're like,
Yeah,
which one was it?
yeah.
Because and I'll kick myself for it. But Jordan Peele,
Hmm.
excellent horror director and creator,
Yes.
excellent and hilarious sketch comedian, and those
Hmm.
two are some of the funniest sketch comedians we have around at present, which hopefully does not jinx them to be some kind of another Me Too incident, because that's what happened when I said, oh, back in 2017, I said to a friend, oh, Louis C.K. is like the best stand-up of the 21st century, and then
Mm.
literally about a few weeks later, it's revealed, like, no, we loved you. Why? But going back, John Peel, Get Out, Us, and Nope, which more sci-fi than say horror, but
Hmm.
excellent horror, because comedy and horror, same principles, just a different aim and result.
Hmm.
It's in terms of both.
That goes back to that unexpected thing.
Yeah,
The thing
well,
as humans that we're looking for within the entertainment
mm,
is the unexpected. If we know exactly every step of the way with what we're being delivered,
mm,
we're not going to enjoy it.
yeah, and
That
which
that thing that
obviously,
you said about going from A to, yes, there's an A and there's a Z, a beginning and an end, but in between we don't want A B C D E F G, do we?
mm, well, as I've, it's basically it's always a game of trying to pull the rug
Hmm.
and misdirect the audience. Uh, Essentially, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Comedians are just magicians with words and ideas. Um, um, um,
And I've heard from Robin Williams that's how we change the world. If you've ever seen Dead Poet Society.
uh, it's one of those I haven't seen which is strange because I'm a huge fan of Robin Williams.
Mm.
Um, um, uh,
It's a very meaningful performance in the film. It's and yeah, and that's the big quotes from there that yeah, words and ideas do have the power to change the world.
I mean, one of my favorite things I'll say about Robin Williams is, well, there's two favorite facts I have about him. One,
Hmm.
most of his lines as the genie, especially at the start of the film, was just him improvising, and the animators just had to
Catch
animate
up.
and catch up. Yes, it was very difficult when they were doing it in real time. Uh, Many of them lost their fingers. But the whole this hooker, curly fry maker and coffee maker, it will not break. It will not break. It broke. That was him basically playing with a prop on the table, and it literally snapped as he was doing this bit. But equally, the other one is when he was in Mork and Mindy, they had to have translators to make sure that he wasn't swearing in any foreign
Yes.
languages. Because it's like, what you doing? What you doing? You're going to do something that you're not supposed to do. So yeah, I do. Yeah, no, and yeah, I mean, definitely a showman and a mischievous man, which is makes some of the most fun comedians. Uh,
He knew how to play, didn't he? And I think
mm,
that's one of the most important parts of theatre is
mm.
play.
Especially, yeah, I think it's always with comedians, it's play and play the playful air.
Mm.
It's just a matter of how you approach it, which there are many ways to do that for many different people.
Hmm.
Uh, and for me, it just so happens I like doing more clowning or slapsticky type things, which
Hmm.
I do keep getting asked like, so where did you train? Or you clearly studied like performance art at uni or something. I'm like, no, I did biomedical science. Uh,
So how did you retain that play? Because it gets worked out of us as we go through the education system, and most adults lose it. How have you retained it?
did I? Well, maybe the point was I lost it and then regained it.
Ah, okay.
Uh,
I
so it's
believe that's true for myself, actually. I believe that that's something that, like, yeah, like I say, got worked out of me, and then I refound it later in life.
I suppose so. I started back when I was. I mean, some of my first earlier gigs when I started doing comedy, but not officially. When I started performing on the circuit, was at uni, and it was working out what I did. Now I always liked sketches and doing that, but I was unable to do the sketch show because I went into too many different societies and missed the auditions and rehearsals. But so I like fine. I'll give the at the time stand up a go, and I will say I have I consider myself a comedian at present, and I accept that I do have stand up influences and I do have do material that is stand up esque, especially when we look at say other clowns. But I was a stand up who evolved into a clown, uh, and I think it was partly because naturally when you do because I have my natural inclination to surrealism. Um, that led to more natural inclination to the physicality of the imagination because I need to convince the audience uh, to be in my world when I take them into that weird world of this is my world you're in. So strapping. Um, uh, um,
I think that could be a brilliant tagline for your show. This is my world, so strap in.
yeah, well, to be honest, the British Comedy Guide, they did a wee review when I was in Glasgow, and they said like Stephen is unlike a little unrefined, like it was very high praise and complimentary, but he said unlike say more experienced prop comics, which I don't like being called a prop comic, because I'm not Carrot Top, I'm a clown, um, uh, but to be honest, favourable review, so I'll take it. But he said, they, unlike, say, more experienced similar comics like Spencer Jones, who basically, essentially, are like a roller coaster that keep you strapped into the ride, they describe you more as a bucking bronco that you're just going to have to wrap your legs around and hold tight and enjoy. Uh, but then, I don't know, I enjoy the fact that I mean, there's an element of which I enjoy. It's like I want the audience to feel comfortable and safe, and I do that as best. But at the same time, I also like that sort of idea of being a bit of a wild man.
Great.
Like welcome to my jungle.
Well, I look forward to it. I do hope to come and see your show at the Fringe.
Please welcome.
This has been a wonderful conversation, Stephen. I really do appreciate you sharing.
Thank you.
Where do we find the show? Where are you on?
So you go 31st of July to the 24th of August. It's at the Counting House, which is near the Pear Tree. You
Hmm.
go at 7:30 every day of the dates I've just named, and you go to the attic, as in the room is called the attic in
Hmm.
that venue. So you head there. It's pay what you want or show it. So it's it's on the free fringe. That does not mean that just means that it's not expensive for me. Me does not mean that please don't walk at our show and don't put money in the bucket, and certainly please don't take money out of the bucket. Uh, but yeah, basically, it's a donation. It's a show that it's all the donations go to a charity. Me, um, uh, and yeah, you go and see it.
Well, I think one of the things is that people often overlook at these things is you as an artist, you need to survive. You need to be able to eat, put a roof over your head, and being at the Edinburgh Fringe isn't cheap for you, is it? It's going to cost you.
Yeah, it's definitely going to cost me. But also, yeah, no, this year I went with the Free Fringe. Certainly, it's a considerable less expense than uh, going with some of the big four venues. Not that I didn't want to go with them, just not always the most uh, financially viable, especially uh,
Hmm.
depending on either your job or how rich your parents are in some cases. Um,
Yes.
but I won't get on with that. Um,
Well, maybe that's for our next conversation, Stephen. If maybe it'd be nice for us to meet up after your show and have a little chat then,
but
and
yeah,
we'll go deeper into these things.
but yeah, I hope you and your audiences come see the show, and I'll show you a wild time of madness in all senses of the word. Uh, um, though maybe not so much on the rage part. Uh, 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 so uh, and then yeah, be fun time. You can see just where possibly you'll be like, you come in, you're like, I was expecting this, I wasn't expecting that, and
Excellent. Well,
somehow it was better for it.
I'm looking forward to it, Stephen. Thank you so much for sharing. I'll be sure to add a link in the comments below for anyone that wants to get tickets. And if anyone has been watching or listening to this conversation, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again,
Bye.
Stephen. Bye-bye. Bye.